Hello, and we're back again getting you prepared for, in this case, for if a disaster strikes. Again, September is known as Preparedness Month, but you don't have to wait until September to be prepared. In fact, you probably need to be prepared before any September comes. So with that being said, I am getting most of my information from the Herbal Emergency Guide. This is a book that was available during the Y2K scenario that we had many years ago. I don't think this book is still available. If it is, it might be a little bit difficult to find. And so I'm going to be here to help you out a little bit, to help you prepare in the event of a disaster. My name is Laura Thompson, and I'm here with Applying Christ Ministries. And we're here just to tell you a couple of things to consider when a disaster strikes. The first thing you need to do is remain calm and patient. Now, if you have the 72-hour disaster kit, then you can remain calm and patient. If you are prepared, you can be calm and patient. If you're not prepared, well, that may add to some of the calamity that might be going on around you. So it's better to be prepared so that you can practice being calm and patient. The next thing you need to do is check for injuries. What injuries might have incurred on yourselves, on anybody else. And with injuries, one of the things, especially if there's blood, one of the things you definitely need to have on hand, if you don't have your first aid kit, if you have cayenne pepper or hot sauce. Applying hot sauce or cayenne pepper to wounds, it will burn, it will scorch you, but it will stop the bleeding. I remember one time my sister had an accident where she fell, and she actually fell on a can. There was a can outside, and she fell, and her face hit the can. When she came back inside, there was a lot of blood coming from the face. Places like the face will have a lot of blood that comes out, and it looks, you could be a little bit shaken up. And so the first thing I reached for, I remembered, get the hot sauce, and we put some hot sauce on it, and it stopped the bleeding, and then she was able to go to the hospital to get care. You don't want to lose more blood than you need to, so you can take care of that. So when a disaster strikes, check for injuries, give first aid to help somebody that's injured, then listen to your battery powered radio. So that means you need to know if this radio works now. At the camping store, you can get a solar-powered radio. But the idea is you need to make sure that radio has had enough sunlight so that it comes on. Any solar-powered device that you have needs to be in the sun so that it can charge, and then it should work. So just bear that in mind. If you have these solar-powered devices, you need some sunlight. In some cases, if you've never used it before, you're going to need about 4 to 8 hours worth of sunlight, maybe more, to actually get that thing to work and stay working over a period of time. So, and that's not in this book. This book, the Herbal Emergency Guide, was given in 1999 and the year 2000. Well, we're many years past that. And so I'm also incorporating some of the technology that's on hand now, like solar-powered devices, which is not in this book. So you need to have a solar-powered radio or a battery-operated radio for news and instructions. If you're advised to do so, you need to evacuate, wear protective clothing, and sturdy shoes. If you can get something waterproof, again, go to the camping store. The camping store has waterproof clothing, and it really works, especially if you have waterproof clothing and there are pockets. You might be able to slip some things in the pocket and they won't get wet. So just bear this in mind. Check for damage in your home in the event of a disaster. Just kind of look at the damage, because if you don't look at the damage, then you don't know what else is impending. Use flashlights. Do not use matches. Just consider, if there's a gas main break and you use a match, you really will light a couple of things on fire. You don't really want to do that. So consider flashlights, and you have to determine about your electrical switches, if you need to keep them on or off. These are just things that you need to consider. check for fire hazards, and also other household hazards that could occur. You need to smell for gas leaks, as I mentioned. Start at the water heater. And so let's go talk about, how is your water heated? Is your water heated through electricity, or is it heated through gas? Those are the things that you need to kind of know before the disaster strikes. So in the event of the disaster, you know, okay, there's a pilot that needs to be lit for this water heater. Smell for gas. And same thing for your stove. If you have an electric stove, or is it a gas range stove, you need to kind of smell around. Do you smell any gas? And if you smell gas, or you suspect that there might be a gas leak, you need to turn off your main gas valve. When do you need to learn how to turn off your gas valve? You need to learn how to do that way before the disaster. And when you figure it out, write it down and let it be a part of your disaster list, so that you know what to do. Because when crisis occurs, sometimes you're not thinking, so you might just think, oh, I have a list. And with that list, you can, go ahead and say, okay, well, I know what to do. I'm good. And so if you have to open the windows, and get everybody outside quickly. Shut off all utilities that need to be shut off. Cleaned up any spilled medicines, bleaches, gasoline, and other flammable liquids immediately. If you didn't know, if you can light bleach and it might, it will stay lit. It holds heat. Anything that's not water will hold heat pretty well. If you have pets, your pets have to be contained and secure. And so when we talked about having we talked about the 72-hour disaster plan. It needs to be inclusive of your pets and what you're going to do for them. Okay, call a family contact, and this is one of the times where if the cable or the wireless signal on your mobile phones is not working anymore, this is where you might really need to work that landline phone that is not digital, and see, make some telephone calls to your landline phone. I remember when I was much younger, when we would lose power or something of that nature, the landline phones would always work. And so that's something to consider. If you lose power, if we lose signal because of some sort of disaster, you'll have to go back to your landline phones. And so because of that, some people are reinstalling the local phones through the local phone network to have as a backup in the event that wireless goes out. So these are just some things to consider. Check on your neighbors, especially if you have neighbors that are disabled or elderly. And make sure that you have adequate water supply in the event your water is cut off. And if your water is cut off and it does come back on, remember you have to boil that. You can't just go ahead and start drinking water that has been cut off. And then sway away from downed power lines. So if you can get out and you're driving, make sure that you are away from power lines, because you don't know when those things are going to sway and possibly hit you or hit somebody that is nearby you or in close proximity. Okay. As a little side note, I remember just a couple of years ago, we had an ice storm, something as simple as an ice storm. And so my house is electricity powered, except for the water, which is gas. And so I was without any heat or anything for a good amount of time. So I'm having to go through and get, the multiple blankets and the sleeping bags and that sort of thing. But the next thing was, okay, what do I have solar powered? Because even though there's an ice storm, there is a little bit of sun out. We can't drive because the streets are completely coated with ice. Do you have those burners? I had burners and I had those chafing dishes, and I was able to heat up something and have some food in the house, almost like what you would do for a buffet type of situation at a party. In addition to that, one of the challenges that I had was I was losing power on my computer and on my phone, and so I was kind of borrowing power between devices. I have a lovely device that connects to my car, and it can give power to just about anything. And I was able to purchase this one time from one of the sky stores. When you're flying, they give you these magazines and you can buy things sometimes. So I was able to purchase something like this from a Sky store. And it's a little container that enables you to plug into the cigarette lighter of your car, and you can take a regular plug and plug that in while your car is running. So that's backup power if you need it. But, you know, at the same token, you just have to be mindful of how you're going to allocate your power. These things need to be thought about in advance so that people, you know, you don't have folks and family members wasting power, wasting resources. In your disaster recovery plan, you got to think about what's the most important thing that needs to happen. You know, do you need to have food? Do you need to have light? And then the other things can kind of skinny out and say, okay, well, we don't need as much of this, or we don't need as much of that. Okay. Let's see. In the event of emergency evacuation, you have to evacuate immediately. Okay, so what do you take with you? Okay, think about that 72-hour kit and the emergency things that need to absolutely come. What gets to stay? What gets to go? What absolutely has to go with you? I hear all the time about people in pictures, and they wish they had pictures of different ones and that sort of thing. Back up your pictures on the cloud storage. Those people that have cloud storage off of the shores of the United States, that's also a good idea. Maybe consider getting backup storage in Canada or in the United Kingdom or something of that nature, so nothing gets lost. If you have a business, if you just have important files, just consider having things offshore. So that in the event something happens on our soil, your business and everything is still maintained. Of course, lock your home, wear protective clothing and sturdy shoes. Take your 72-hour disaster kit, and we talked about what needed to be in that disaster kit. Use the travel routes that you've been given by local authorities. Let's see, shut off the water, shut off the gas, shut off electricity. Leave a note informing others when you left and where you're going, and make arrangements for your pets. These are just a few things to think of in the event of a disaster. And with that, we're going to come back and talk about more home preparedness. And I hope this helps you. Again, my name is Laura Thompson, and I'm with Applied Christ Ministries, and we're talking about how you can be prepared for disaster through the Herbal Emergency Guide. And that was written by Rita Elkins. We'll be back.